Deadpool is a proven critical and commercial success, shattering records the world over. But we're not here to talk about any of that. Besides, I'm not really a numbers guy. I just say a whole bunch of words and then try to edit them into some kind of coherent order. This video that looks at the deleted scenes of Deadpool, plus the early drafts, characters both heroic and villainous that didn't make the cut, and more, is no exception. With that stellar intro out of the way, let's get into it. The first draft of the Deadpool script leaked all the way back in 2010, and at estimate, about 70% of it remains intact. There are though some significant changes. If you thought the movie was a little light on action set pieces, well, it was budget cuts that forced the culling of two major sequences. One involves an extension of the highway sequence between Ajax and Deadpool that includes a motorcycle chase that spirals into a house being transported on the back of a lorry, and the other is in the finale, in which there was going to be an extended gun battle, not on a crashed helicarrier, but up through a building, raid style, ending up at the confrontation with the lead villain. The joke that Deadpool forgot his guns was written specifically so as to remove this. And that scene was at one point to include a moment cutting back to Blind Al's home and having her trip over the bag. There's also a Doctor Strange-esque sequence where he travels the world in search of a cure for his cancer, and after discovering a practitioner pretending to remove people's illnesses by using sleight of hand to remove what turns out to be chicken guts, he pulls out the doctor's heart without any medical equipment. That's pretty messed up. There's also no Deadpool searches for Francis montage. That's replaced with Francis spending 5 years in jail after the facility burns down, and Deadpool taking mercenary jobs whilst patiently awaiting his release. Other scenes cut include carving "Hello, my name is Francis" into Ajax's head when initially escaping, Wade Wilson attempting to kill himself in all manner of gruesome ways, kind of like Groundhog Day, after he gets horrifically scarred. This included riding a motorbike into a wall, and Deadpool turning a Spider-Man mask inside out to get the inspiration for his own iconic look. More villains were also to turn up. Originally, Wire, Garrison Kane, and Sluggo comprised of Ajax's underlings. They were all consolidated into Angel Dust so that the film would have a kick-ass female presence. It was also to be revealed that Dr. Kilbrew was the one behind the whole mutation program, like he is in the comics. Though if I recall correctly, Ajax said that he used to be a patient in the facility, so they may be saving him for a future installment. A crazy amount of jokes didn't make the cut either. There's apparently a super offensive comment TJ Miller makes at the expense of Wade Wilson's face that they knew they just couldn't include. But a bunch of others also didn't make the cut, some of which we saw in the promo material.
You look like an avocado had sex with an older avocado. Thank you.
There was also another jab at Ryan Reynolds' Green Lantern movie on the freeway. Weasel accusing one of his bar patrons of not pulling out a gun to support him when he was being threatened. The line, "Ice to see you," when Deadpool was running down that guy on the Zamboni. And two of the people said to die in the Deadpool were Alex Trebek through excessive cocaine use and Amy Winehouse. There was actually going to be a running gag throughout the film, cutting to Amy Winehouse, narrowly avoiding death, only to be hit by a bus in the credits. Deadpool would have then said, "And you would have thought it'd be an overdose." This was probably cut because Amy Winehouse really did die of an overdose. Now there might be another reason, but there isn't another reason. That's the reason. Though director Tim Miller has stated that there'll be no director's cut, he has said that there's one moment in particular that he said he'd like to see appear as an extra on the DVD. In the workshop fight, Wade Wilson stomps on Francis's face, but producer Simon Kinberg said no, that sequence was violent enough already. Ryan Reynolds mentioned recently that Taskmaster, the sometimes Marvel villain, sometimes anti-hero, was to appear. In what capacity, it's unclear, but he was deemed too expensive to implement, which I don't really understand because he's not super well known or an overly complex character design-wise. But maybe the budget allocated to him had to go into straightening out TJ Miller's hair. Hugh Jackman, although mentioned multiple times, doesn't appear in person as Wolverine as they'd initially hoped, for budgetary and scheduling reasons. Apparently it was a nightmare developing which X-Men would appear and which ones couldn't, so they just put it in the too hard basket and went with Negasonic Teenage Warhead and Colossus. Though despite the next solo Wolverine movie said to be Hugh Jackman's last appearance as the character, he has mentioned that he'd be open to appearing alongside Deadpool. So maybe we'll see that down the line. Finally, screenplay writers Paul Wernick and Rhett Reese have said in interviews that along the way they wrote a PG-13 draft to re-energize the project and get Fox on board. And they actually liked this version, but in their heart of hearts hoped that it would end up being R. And it was, because, you know, I want to see a guy cut off a man's head and kick it into another man, which I did see. Of all these elements though that we didn't see, is there any that you kind of wish would have made it in? Or even see that turn up in the next Deadpool movie. If you have any thoughts, feel free to leave them below. And while you're here, there might be some other videos that you might like, including what didn't make the cut in The Force Awakens. So yeah, click there or subscribe or, whatever you want to do. I also just want to mention quickly that my podcast, The Weekly Planet, which is linked below, on Monday we'll be doing one of our superhero showdown episodes, where we pit two characters, as chosen by the listeners, against each other and determine who will win. People always seem to enjoy these episodes and also get real angry on Twitter. It's a good healthy blend. All right, that'll do it. Thanks for watching, everyone. Take care.